Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Homeopathic Super Session by Dr. Jarvis. Today we'll be doing the second part of the chapter Antagonism between Homeopathy and Allopathy by Carroll Dunham. Well, in the first part we had seen the historical perspective. So in the second part we shall see the philosophical perspective of the antagonism between homeopathy and allopathy. So Hahnemann perceived the prevailing methods of the treating diseases which were comprised of two parts. So he said that the diseases which could be treated were comprised or which consisted of two parts. It was first rational part and second it was the part of administration. So the rational and the administration, there were the two parts in which you could treat the disease. Regarding the rational part, it involves the cause and essential nature of the disease. So for the rational part, you have to identify the cause and the essential nature of the disease. Hence, if the supposed cause of the disease was removed, there existed a contrary state of health. Galen's method consisted of this. It divided diseases into hot, cold, moist, and dry. It also made a similar classification of remedies and applied it to the disease in question. So, as you all know, Galen also, he divided diseases into the four categories, and he had a similar categories of medicine which would combat the disease. For example, certain diseases were caused due to the accumulation of blood in certain organs, and they were cured it by bloodletting. They wanted the want of tone were to be cured by tonics, and lack of animal spirit were cured by stimulants. So as you all can see, the diseases were divided into these four categories. Similarly, the drugs were also there, which had a similar classification. So therefore, the examples given out here that if any disease was because of accumulation of blood, then you have to do bloodletting, or if a disease was there because of want of tone, it had to be cured by tonics, or lack of animal spirit by stimulants. In cases of fever, which existed in marshy areas from a marsh miasma, the medicines were given which cured the disease. The good result was obtained on sheer luck or by accident. So he says that in cases of fever, which existed in marshy areas, but actually the cause was a marsh miasma. However, this the old school of medicine did not believe in, but they gave the medicine and which by luck cured the disease, or by accident cured the disease because the remedy was similar to it. So these are known as accidental cures in homeopathy of the old school, whereby they gave a medicine, a specific medicine, and just by sheer luck or because the medicine was similar in symptoms, by accident it cured the patient. This is also given in the introduction of Organon textbook. If you read it carefully towards the end of the introduction, that accidental cures of homeopathy. And many examples have been given there also. If you want, you can read for your further reading. Hahnemann further showed the mistaken belief upon which the rational method was based. He showed that the accumulation of blood does not exist as a direct or proximate cause in certain disease conditions. So therefore, he showed that the rational method was based on a wrong belief. So he showed that the accumulation of blood was there and it did not exist because of a direct or proximate cause. Yet these accumulations cannot be regarded as the essential cause of the disease. On the contrary, the cause must be sought in the force which regulates the circulation and preserve its equilibrium. So he says that the cause should be in the force which is there in the organism, which regulates and preserves the circulation in the body, thus maintaining homeostasis and equilibrium. This force must have been set into abnormal action so that the accumulation could take place in any organ. And this force is there because of its abnormal action. The accumulation of blood had taken place in any particular organ. Thus, we see the results of the cause. Therefore, to remove the cause, it is not cure, it only palliates it by carrying away some of its products. So therefore, if you remove the cause by removing the excessive blood, by bloodletting, he said that is not the cure, it only will cause palliation. That is the temporary relief, but again, the blood will accumulate. He showed that this abnormal condition is due to the dynamic force, which is beyond the sphere of our observation. So the abnormal condition of any disease condition is because of the dynamic force. So this dynamic force is there, which gets disturbed, as a result of which the accumulation of blood takes place in any organs. So this dynamicity of the disease, the allopathic physicians or the old school of physicians did not look into, or they failed to look into the dynamic aspect of the drug, of the disease. Again, regarding specifics, Hahnemann says to reject them as it cannot be known the distinct manner in which they work. So as you all know, in the old school, they had specific medicines for specific disease. And Dr. Hahnemann says that you have to outrightly reject the specific medicines because their properties or the action or how they work is not known. This was the antagonism which Hahnemann showed regarding specifics in the old school. So this was Dr. Hahnemann's opposition or antagonistic view of the specific medicine of the old school. That the specific medicine did not have any relationship to the disease. They did not, their properties were not studied. It was only an empty speculation. He once again said that the medicines had to be given on similar basis. So he reminded again that the only probable method of curing the patient is that the medicines should be given on similar symptoms. Specifics are discovered by ascertaining the effects of drugs on healthy persons. So he says that if you want to give specifics, then the specifics medicine's properties or the action should be ascertained by proving it on a healthy person. With the advancement of scientific progress, the terminologies used during Hahnemann also needed revision. So as science progressed and as the science also advanced, whatever terminologies Dr. Hahnemann used, it also required revision or it had to be updated. Hence, we hear no more of temperaments and humors, but instead talk of dyscrasias and heterologies. Heterologies meaning opposites. Thus, Hahnemann and his followers refer exclusively to the department of therapeutics, the science and the art of curing disease by medicines. So therefore, Dr. Hahnemann and his staunch followers, they said that if you want to treat the medicine or if you want to treat the person properly, you have to go into the department of therapeutics, which is a great science, and with your art, you have to cure the disease by the specific medicines whose action was known on the healthy provers. The science of physiology, anatomy, pathology, as well as hygiene, surgery, obstetrics, and medicine had fully kept pace with the wonderful progress of scientific knowledge. So as science advanced, naturally, all the other sciences related to the medical science, like physiology, anatomy, etc., had also been upgraded. Hahnemann said that the antagonists between the old school of homeopathy, or between the old school and homeopathy, will never unite us for the development of the science. So Dr. Hahnemann says that if we go on opposing each other, then there'll be no unity, or the two systems of medicine cannot unite for the development of science. So if we want science to develop, we all must be one. We must all have one common idea, which we should use for the benefit of mankind. We must stop fighting, or we must stop opposing each other. That is the old school and homeopathy. Hahnemann says that a wholesale generalization of the disease and of the remedies is inevitable from the philosophy of the rational medicine. So he says that if you want the medicine to be rational, you have to do the wholesale generalization of the disease and remedies. Hahnemann now concludes that under our method alone, the absolute individualization of the disease is possible. So the conclusion, initially, he said that you have to do generalization, but later on, using deductive logic, he came to the conclusion that nothing but individualization would be possible of the disease if we wanted to cure the disease completely. So the same individualization with regard to specifics is the only practical solution which has its fruitful and richest returns. So not only you have to individualize the disease, but also you have to individualize the drug. So once you individualize the disease as well as the drug, then only you will be successful in practice with this new system of medicine that is homeopathy. Thus, Hahnemann taught us to discover and apply the individual specific to each individual case of disease when studied by its totality. So therefore, you had to study the totality of the disease, and this totality became the individualistic totality of the disease, and you had to match the totality of the disease to the totality of the drug. The necessary consequences of individualization is the value of subjective symptoms. So he said that for individualization, you have to take up the important subjective symptoms or the value of subjective symptoms. Subjective symptoms are those symptoms which are felt by the patient, hence they are of utmost importance. So subjective symptoms are felt by the sick person and is of utmost importance. It includes all varieties of pain and abnormal sensation which accompanies the disease. So subjective symptoms will include the different types of pain or any abnormal sensation that will accompany the disease. So the patient will exhibit these symptoms and he will tell these symptoms to the patient, to the physician, which will enable the physician to find out the right remedy based on individualization. This is, however, disregarded or having no value by the rational or the physiological school of medicine. However, individualization had no role to play by the so-called old school of medicine or the so-called rational system of medicine of the old school or the physiological school of medicine. Professor Bloch of Leipzig, in his work on diagnosis in 1853, says that the objective symptoms which are derived by the knowledge by the use of physicians' five senses are of any value. So, Professor Bloch of Leipzig, he said that he gave importance to the objective symptoms, which helped the physician to diagnose the case with his help of his physician's five senses. The subjective symptoms are in the highest degree uncertain and treacherous. So Professor Bloch said that the subjective symptoms are totally no value and they're totally uncertain, and they will cheat the patient or they will cheat the person. So you do not have to take the subjective symptoms into account, but only you have to take the objective symptom, that is the diagnosis of the disease. Thus, Hahnemann showed the value of subjective symptoms which aid in individualization of the case, enables to select a specific remedy with absolute prescription. But Dr. Hahnemann differed, and he said that he showed that the subjective symptoms are the only or of the utmost importance if you want to individualize the case, as a result of which you will be able to select a specific remedy with great precision. The objective symptom may have resulted from a number of pathological processes or abnormal alteration of functions and do not help to select the right medicine. Furthermore, he says that the objective symptoms must have resulted from a pathological process. So naturally, whatever objective symptoms are there, they naturally come out from the pathological processes or the abnormal alterations or functions going on in our body. And naturally, the pathological symptoms, they do not help us to select the right remedy, but they will aid the physician for the diagnosis of the disease. But on the other hand, the subjective symptoms enable us to make note of the pathological processes, the abnormal change of function, and hence the symptoms have value. So he said the subjective symptoms as compared to the objective symptoms are more important because it helps us to identify whatever abnormal changes have occurred, including the pathological processes, what changes have taken place, and hence they are of much more importance. Hahnemann again owns his credit of only using one remedy at a time. So Hahnemann said that you only have to use a single simple remedy, one at a time, and not in combination, as compared to the old school of medicine. It was clearly expressed by Boyle and Sir John Forbes. So even Boyle and Sir John Forbes agreed to this. In 1846, Forbes said that our systems are greatly and radically wrong. So he agreed that the existing system of the old school was greatly and radically wrong. Our formulas are complex and our fashion is double and redouble the existing complexities. So he says that whatever formulas we are using, or whatever specifications we are using, or whatever specific medicines are using, they are really complex, and it's become a fashion to double or redouble the existing complexities. The way of ascertaining the precise and peculiar powers of the individual drug interferes in the most important manner with the progress of therapeutics. So therefore he says that as therapeutic progresses, we have to ascertain the peculiar, precise powers of the individualing drug. Then only we will be able to cure the person. Finally, Hahnemann demonstrates these facts. The first point, the curative power of a specific remedy is not in the direct ratio of its material quantity. That means what? Whatever curative power the specific remedy has, it is not in ratio, direct ratio to the material quantity. That means what? More the material quantity, more the curative power. Not so. The drug exerts a more powerful effect on those organs for which it has a specific affinity when these organs are sick than when they are healthy. So what the drug, second point, Dr. Hahnemann says that the drug will exert or will have an action on a specific part or a specific affinity of the disease condition or of the disease organ as compared when they were healthy. It follows that smaller doses of the same drug are required to cure disease for which it is the specific remedy. And furthermore, he says that the smaller doses will be required to cure the disease which is specific remedy. Specific remedy here meaning specific to their properties which are found out by drug proving and not in any other sense. Third point, Dr. Hahnemann says smaller doses of specifics are required to cure the disease which are similar to those produced in healthy subject. Then this drug will act curatively. So therefore, he said, when you use the smaller doses and according to symptom similarity, if you give the drug to a diseased person, it will cure it and it will bring the person back into the health. Then only you can say that this drug will act curatively. Well, the next question comes is how small the dose. So Hahnemann says the smaller the better, provided they only cure the disease in the quickest and surest manner. So Dr. Hahnemann found that more minute doses were beneficial as compared to the massive physiological doses given by the old school of medicine. So he said, regarding how small the dose, Hahnemann was quite witty and saying that the smaller the dose is the best, provided they cure the disease in the quickest and surest manner. Therefore, our art needs patience. It strikes deep into the roots of the disease, and mankind who has been tormented by it now finds him refreshed under the beneficent shadows of homeopathy. So therefore, he says that this art of homeopathy, the homeopathy which is an art and science, and our art is seen when we treat the patient, we have to have patience. Why? Because it strikes deep into the root of the disease. It goes right deep into the organism, right into the root of the disease, where the cause of the disease lies. That is the fundamental cause, that is the miasm. And mankind who has been tormented, or mankind, or the person who is suffering from this disease, will now find he'll be refreshed under the beneficent shadow of homeopathy. So when administering a drug, the man will find that he will be totally cured, or he will find a sense of good being or refreshment when he uses this good system of homeopathy. So that's all about the philosophical perspective of this case. So in part 1 and part 2, I have told you the historical perspective and the philosophical perspective of Carroll Dunham of the chapter Antagonism between Homeopathy and the Old School. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please do subscribe to my channel, Homeopathy Supersessions by Dr. Jagos. Just to remind you, it is a channel exclusively related to Organon. It is easy to understand and remember. Explanation is given in very simple terms. It covers most of the topics of UG and PG syllabus. It has up to date around 74 videos, also short descriptions of commonly seen diseases which have been introduced lately, and also important tips how to crack the examinations, viva questions, theory questions, and much. Thank you very much.